Hello, beautiful soul. Have you ever found yourself explaining something clearly, asking for what you need, or correcting something that seemed perfectly reasonable to you? And then suddenly the other person reacts in a way that just completely surprises you. Maybe they feel criticized. Maybe they become defensive. Maybe the conversation just suddenly goes downhill. And then you're left wondering, why does this keep happening? You might even think, I'm just being clear. Why are people getting so upset? And the reason that this is happening has very little to do with communication and everything to do with identity. And that's what we're going to explore today. See, most of us believe that when we react to something that's happened in our life, it's the what happens that causes the reaction, right? But in reality, something deeper in our subconscious mind is what's shaping our reactions and very often influencing how others respond to us. And that something is our identity. And more specifically, it's the identity that we developed in our earliest years to survive emotionally. I remember earlier in my own journey feeling confused when people reacted negatively to things I would say that seemed perfectly reasonable to me. I thought I was just simply being clear about what I wanted. And maybe I was just trying to improve things that the way they were being done. But what I eventually realized was that my reaction of feeling confused and frustrated, it wasn't about how people were negatively reacting to what I said. It was connected to a deeper pattern inside of me that I hadn't seen and nor had I admitted having. And once I began to see it, everything shifted for me. So let me show you a simple way to understand how this works. It all begins with the outcomes that we're experiencing and goes all the way down into the root cause of our reactive behaviors and communication. And I call it the pyramid for true change and transformation. It's kind of like a map of your mind. At the top of the pyramid is where all of the experiences occur that we have in our life, our results and our outcomes. These are all external. And I'm focusing specifically on relationship outcomes that are stressful. Like an example, you might have an outcome when someone says something unkind or critical to you. Someone harshly reacts unexpectedly. Something doesn't go the way that you had hoped for, or you had an expectation that you felt justified in, and it just didn't get met. Now let's just drop down into the next area. This defines what we are consciously aware of doing to get the results that we want. At this level, we take what we think is deliberate action. We focus on things like improving communication, learning new behaviors, or maybe trying to manage situations more effectively. When you try to change your behavior at the level of behavior, it just carries a 10% impact on you being able to sustainably make a change. How many of us have that proverbial list of things that we know we should be doing for better health, maybe saving more money, clearing the clutter out of our lives, and yet we don't do them? Let's drop down into the subconscious domain, the part that has a 90% impact on sustainable change. It's involuntary, it's automatic, and it becomes habitual. When we have a stressful relationship experience, we feel an automatic emotional reaction, frustration, confusion, irritation. And then the mind quickly presents a story or an interpretation about what just happened, right? For example, they're not listening, they don't respect me, they don't care about doing things the right way. Well, these interpretations come out of our limited beliefs and our survival values. They were designed to keep us emotionally safe and to function in the world when we lived in the very early years of our lives. Over time, these interpretations become habit patterns of thinking. But at the very base of this pyramid, there's something even deeper. And this is where many high-achieving women begin to realize something surprising. The real driver of these patterns isn't the situation itself. It's our survival identity, which is based in fear. This is what's operating underneath it all. It becomes the filter through which we interpret what's happening in our life. It sparks our reactions, our negative emotions, and it influences ultimately what we do and what we say. And this is why we get the results that we get. Survival identity develops early in our life as a way to protect us emotionally. Now, here's something important you might be aware of. I've been speaking of an identity as if it's singular. The truth is, our survival identity has two sides. It's like a two-sided coin, one's heads and one's tails. And yet, it's all on one coin. One side of our fear coin is the identity that we show the world. I call this side the justified image that needs to be right. It drives us to prove that we're safe and to be able to function in the world, to get what we want and need. We can become strong and competent, responsible, high-achieving, and accomplished. The other side is the hidden identity. It's your I am, and whatever it is you are believing that makes you feel very small when you are vulnerable. I am unworthy. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. This is what the justified image is quietly protecting. The younger hidden part of you might have felt unseen or unheard at a very early age. Maybe you didn't feel valued or protected. This is the side that feels very wrong and very small. It believes it's not good enough, not worthy, not wanted, maybe even not lovable. Now, here's what's interesting. These two sides grow together. They're in a symbiotic relationship. The strong identity protects the vulnerable self. You don't have the one without the other. And this is where relationships often become very difficult, because when survival identity is operating, something subtle happens. Relationships can begin to feel transactional instead of relational, right? There is no heart connection because fear is present. Remember, fear is contraction and connection is expansion. Instead of simply being present with another person, we begin our reactive behaviors, maybe correcting, explaining, micromanaging, or controlling the situation. Even though this strong identity can look very positive, like competent, responsible, capable, and again, maybe quite successful, it is still rooted in fear. When we're in reaction, our energy comes through long before we even say a word. It shows in our body language. And guess what? The other person's body will detect what we're emitting and perceive us as a threat. Therein lies the source of our relationship conflicts and power struggles. Now, this is an important turning point. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to just take a big, deep breath right now. That's a lot. Let's slow this down. Transformation doesn't begin by blaming ourselves for these patterns. Instead, see these patterns with compassion rather than judgment. It begins with loving awareness. Your survival habit patterns are meant to keep you safe in your early years. And the good news is you're no longer that younger child who needed that protection. So remember, awareness alone doesn't transform identity, but loving awareness and acceptance begins the process. So this week, I'd like to invite you into a really simple practice. The next time you feel frustration in a relationship, maybe someone doesn't listen, maybe something doesn't go the way that you expected, I want you to just pause for a moment and just breathe. No fixing, no judging, no managing the conversation. just take a nice, slow breath. Just relax your jaw. Just gently open your chest and allow yourself to just observe for a moment with compassion. And when you can be reflective, gently ask yourself 3 questions. What emotion just arose in my body? Number 1. Question number 2. What story did my mind immediately create about what happened? And number 3, which part of my identity might this situation be touching and maybe threatening? My justified image or my fearful, vulnerable self, the little I am? You might want to write this down in your journal. Just notice what's happening in the moment or at a time when you can reflect. Because loving awareness is where transformation begins. And when we begin to see these identity patterns clearly, something powerful really starts to happen. We stop trying to fix the moments and we begin transforming the source of them. In the next video, we'll explore how survival identity actually shows up in our behaviors in our relationships, including control, criticism, emotional withdrawal, maybe pleasing others. We're on our way to experience a miraculous change in you, one that will change your relationships. So if this conversation resonates with you, earlier videos in this series explore the anatomy of the survival patterns, and they may be also very helpful for you. We can't change anything that we don't see, right? So I've placed the previous video in this series here for you if you'd like to continue. So thank you for being here with me. And remember, you are a treasure to behold, a spiritual being having a human experience. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.